Like Jordan, if you can get it, like we're starting to talk about, where like, hey, there's a little bounce light in here, that kind of thing. You can use that obviously when you do an architectural rendering. If you got a lot of grass out there, that might give you and it's a sunny day, you might bounce a little of that green around here and there, and just to sparkle things up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because there is a layer of, with anything you're presenting, I don't care what it is, presentation that is emotional, and color and all those things can be used as emotional notes in something. And people think like that's some big fine arty idea. It's not. Because if I look at if you're looking at a lot of presentational materials or something, and there's one that's just warm and inviting and contrasty, and my eye just keeps going there, even if you don't realize it, you're gravitating to that idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always say, if anything you can get that gives you some insight into things that your competitors don't have is a good thing. Okay. And I can guarantee you a lot of people in your field aren't even thinking about that stuff. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, no, very true. A lot of them are strong with programming, but when it comes to the presentation board, I mean, the effect's not there, and it looks like a nice project. If you analyze it, it's excellent, but it's just you don't get that wow factor.
Yes. And I've been on, I think I might have mentioned this in here. I've had that happen to me. Okay. I've had it happen to our team. And I don't know if I said this or not, but when I was over at Imagineering, Eisner would come in every now and then, who was the head of Disney at that time, and he's the guy holding the money. And he would come in and we did this. And these are big presentations, right? A lot of mind blowing stuff on the board and all that. And he came in, and I went over to my boss after the meeting. And I go, so what was the end result? And he goes, we lost $7 million. And I go, we lost how do we lose $7 million? And he goes, he just didn't get this and he didn't get that. And I told him at the time, I go, that's our fault. Like, we didn't punch that enough, and we
Right.
didn't make it clear enough. I think part of it is we just didn't make it clear enough. And what you fall into the thinking of in a career is guys like Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg and all these huge, moguls of Disney and DreamWorks and all these places, and wherever, they like to present themselves as creatives. Okay. Like Michael Eisner loved to act like, he's part of the creative team. Okay. And I saw this guy, and I never bought into that, but it matters in your presentation because that's who you're presenting to. So you better make that understandable, because if it's not understandable, you're not getting the money for it because they don't get it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yeah.
if it's not like, when they walk up and you're asking for money to build something or whatever, they should walk up and go, wow, that one. Yeah. Because once they do that, you got them. You know what I mean? And I saw Eisner in a meeting. This is a real eye opener for me because I knew he wasn't a creative guy, but I thought he got it a little more than that. And it was for the room at California Adventure, the animation pavilion thing, where you go in and there's all these screens on the wall, sort of look like pages, right?
Mhm.
Real big. It's a big, spectacular room. He had seen this over and over again. Okay. He'd been there for the development of it, obviously. Okay. Then he comes in one time and we were setting up. I don't think I said this in here. And this matters to me because I think presentation is kind of everything. We were setting up monitors in a conference room that were representing what content was going to be on each screen. That's all they were doing, right? They're monitors, little monitors.
Okay.
We're setting them up, up on this side, around that way and around that way, so we could play everything in unison and go, here's all the content that's going to be on here. Here's the shot from The Lion King we're going to use. Here's the shot from whatever. And then we also had a scale model of that room that had been around since before I even came on the project. So it's like a 1-inch scale model, okay, with people silhouettes in it, like a foam core model on a stand, right? And he came in that meeting while we're setting up on it, and he goes, "What's this for?" And we go, "It's for the content for the for that." And he goes, "But these monitors are so small." And we're like, "These are just to show you content." Yeah, but they're so small. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, do you think we're going to take these cheesy monitors and stick them in that room? Does that even make sense to you? And then we took them out and go, it's this room that you've seen 10,000 times and you've seen renderings of, because there's renderings of it, models of it, drawings of it, all that stuff. And then we show him the scale model because it was outside the conference room. And he goes, "That's so small." And I'm just going, do you think this room is going to be this big? Like, what do you mean it's so small? It's a scale model. It took forever to get that concept through to him,
Wow.
and that really woke me up, because then it was like, wow, this is even deeper than I thought. So what that does is, and I'm not saying this in an insulting way, when you're presenting, you better know who you're presenting to,
Yeah.
and custom. And if it's somebody like not creative, who's holding money, who thinks about money all the time, and is more that kind of brain, you better design that presentation like you're designing it for a 3-year-old. And I'm not meaning that in an insulting way. It'd be like if those financial people have to make a presentation to me, you better design that like I'm a 3-year-old, because I don't get it. The only
No, I
difference
get
between
that.
them and me is that I'm aware that I'm not good at that. You know what I
I
mean?
really believe that your presentation has to be able to stand like on its own, because you have maybe you rehearse some lines, and something that you say, but they don't really. Some people don't listen, So you need to
No,
have.
here's another thing when you're presenting, because there's some people in here taking this class that are not in an art related field. That's why, and I talk about this anyways. I'd like to talk about career stuff. I think it's important. I used to always like to wing presentations. Okay. I'm just better when I wing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's necessarily always the best solution for everybody. But here's the thing, since I've designed all the product, or I'm in on the design of the product, and if I'm the creative director, I'm really in on it. And so I know it really well. Now, the second superpower I had in that is if it was something I really dug that I thought was cool, my enthusiasm could be totally contagious, because I would present it just like, hey man, check this out, it's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just talk about it. And then, like, I remember when we went over for a presentation at Pixar, okay, to Andrew Stanton, who's an Oscar winner, right? This guy did Finding Nemo, and he was working on Wall-E at the time. Big presentation, scary presentation, right?
Mhm.
And my boss goes, and then there was somebody representing Home. She was a director of Home, director of apparel was there. I was director of toy design, blah blah blah. And my boss huddles us together, and he goes, okay, let's kind of go over this. And I go, I can't do that. I go, if you start rehearsing me and expecting me to do that, I will
Yeah.
completely, it'll be a disaster. And then when I was watching everybody else do their presentation, they're very much like, now here in our spring line, we're thinking we're going to bring in the idea of, and I'm going, I wouldn't want to watch this presentation. It's not conversational.
Even worse when they're like reading the bullet points, off what they
Oh my
wrote.
God. I've
Yeah.
seen people fall asleep and literally seen, I think I said this in here, literally was in a conference room with some guy doing a presentation that went on for like 45 minutes. It's just a bunch of bullet points in PowerPoint. And there was at least two people asleep in that room. And if you're in a conference room, you know damn well these people are asleep, because they're asleep.
Yeah.
And this guy just kept plowing for it. I remember just sitting there watching it going, what is wrong with this guy? He can't read the room at all. Like, wrap this up, dude. Nobody cares anymore. You know what I mean? Nobody
Yeah.
cared from the beginning. But anyway, I as much as I can get them, and you can't always do this, but as much as I can, I try and get them conversational. You know what I mean? If somebody says anything like, wow, I really like this, I'll pull that into a conversation. Well, now I'm talking to people, and they're talking back to me, and they're asking stuff,
Yeah.
and they're going, to me, that's the best. When Andrew Stanton came in that room, his people came to us and they go, you have a half an hour with Andrew, right? Because he's super scheduled, right? Because he's making a movie. And I brought in a lot of prototypes, obviously renderings, sketches, all kinds of fun, cool stuff. And a lot of it sort of worked, because it was prototypes. And this is what happened. This is the best presentation I ever did, because I didn't have to do anything. He walked in with his team, 2 or 3 other people, and walked in the room, and there was some sort of Wall-E product that we had designed. And he turned around and he goes, whoa, that's cool. And he goes, can we do this and this and this with this? And I go, yeah. And the next thing I knew, we're just drawing, talking, like, hey, check this out, and he'd go over and he'd go, hey, what about if we add this to that, and it just became sort of a design session a little bit with his team. And then his people came in and go, hey, Andrew. And he goes, I'm staying in here, because he was having fun. And but he's a high level creative person. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I saw with him, and I've seen it with most people who are in having those types of, good careers, he was still a kid in a candy store. You know what I mean? He had not become jaded. And this is I don't know if this is before, it's probably before John Carter Mars, which was a flop, but he loved what he did. You know what
Yeah,
I
he
mean?
sounds like he's very good to work with.
Well, he was really cool. It's the only time I had to deal with him, but man, what a cool guy. And now he could have come in. He's an Oscar winner. He's famous. He could have been a real jerk if he wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one other thing that'll shut up about this. Then there was the director of apparel. Okay, so he has to do his presentation after mine. Good luck. And I talked to him about this because he showed me the line, and I go, "Why are you using all this airbrushed, rendered out art?" I go, "That's super 70s, dude." And I go, "If you're doing a retro statement, it might make sense, but that rendered out art is not cool. It's just not cool." I go, "Have you seen the style guide for this? It's all super flat vector graphics, man. And it's a great style guide. Use the style guide. That's why they gave it to you. And then then you can use those assets to create creative things. But, they like that style guide or they wouldn't have gave it to you. And you're constantly doing this rendered, tired thing that was big when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So we go into the presentation. Here's a mistake. Don't ever do this. And Andrew Stanton's, he's a nice guy. And he looks at the stuff and the guy does his presentation. And then Andrew goes, I'm not really that big on this airbrushy rendered style, just like I told him. And he's like, "Oh, well, here's why I did that." Blah, 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 blah. And he goes, "Okay, that's great." He goes, "Did you look at the style guide? Because the style guide has a lot of really cool stuff in it." "Oh yeah, but and he kept arguing the point, right? And he probably did that 3 or 4 times. All of us are just sitting there going, "This guy's just digging his own grave," right? And Andrew Stanton, again, is a nice guy. And what I always reference, it's funny because I told him this when I told him I didn't think that style worked. I go, "That reminds me of like 70s van paintings. Those airbrush, you guys probably don't even know, but people used to paint these ridiculous airbrush murals on the sides of their vans. It was usually like Conan the Barbarian and Frazetta stuff and all. It was really cheesy and really cheesy. And so the guy kept arguing, and finally Andrew Stanton goes, "I don't want 70s van art on my apparel."
Wow.
And everybody in the room, like, they didn't say it audibly, but everybody's like, "Oh shit," you know. And that was the end of that, right? And then when you leave there, because I knew, Ben Butcher over there, and I knew people over there, and you start getting these caricatures that people make of the meeting, like they always would do my boss because he would always get beet red, look super nervous and stuff. And then and then we got one on about that guy, and they go, "Hey, who's the aging porn star who did the presentation on apparel?" Like, those people just thought he was an asshole.
Oh.
But I mean, presentation is everything. That's where you're going to get your money. That's where you're going to next steps. That's where if you're new on the team, that's where you're showing what you can do, on and on and on. It's super important. And I had a teacher one time tell me, it's like, I can't remember the percentage, but he goes, it's like 70% is presentation. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So whatever your presentation style is, make sure it's succinct, to the point, not meandering. And I think as much as you can, sort of conversation. My girlfriend's listening to some marketing thing or something because she owns a restaurant right now, and they're in the kitchen, right? And I just listened to the woman ramble because I've been out of that world for 4 years now. I just listened to this woman ramble and say nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. She goes, "Well, one of the things during the pandemic we've noticed is authenticity to the moment. As long as you're authentic to the moment and you present transparency, then you're being authentic and your clients will understand." I'm going to my girlfriend. I go, "She's not saying anything. Like, she's not saying anything at all." You know what I mean? Like, don't ever do that. Don't be bullshitty. Be honest. Create something that, whatever it is you're creating, be excited about it. Because that, to me, if you can leverage your excitement and just let yourself be excited about it, it's contagious. You know what I mean? It's contagious. People will go, "Yeah." It's just like my girlfriend goes, "You talk about art nonstop. I can't take it." Right. And I go, "No, I don't." Because we talk about your work nonstop too. And then she goes, and I go, "And by the way, I can listen to anybody be passionate about anything. I'll get into it. I don't care about cars, but if you're talking to me about cars because you love cars and all that kind of stuff, I can get into it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's infectious. But anyway, that's presentation, which is what we're kind of doing here, right? Okay, who's this? Alexander.
Yeah, hello.
What do you think?
I was having trouble with the edges of it, but I think I got it good.
What I'd say is now introduce like another color, right?
Yeah.
So I would probably go, and I know I'm not going to turn everybody into painters overnight. Okay, I get it. But I just want you to understand this because when we move into the next thing, it's going to be important. Okay. And you don't have to go crazy with this. You know, you might just take your photo, you know, like maybe you get another canyon photo and find, because a lot of times you'll get some purple violets and things in there. So I might kind of try and find, let me see if I can do this because I can't go underneath. Wow, that's a cool brush. I'm going to lose it all, but. And I'm doing that on a color layer. Oh, no wonder. Let's see if there's a better layer. Hang on. That's not too bad. Might be a little strong. So maybe I'll take it down a little. You know, and just maybe try and get a cool in there somewhere. That's a little too strong. I'm gonna go back to color. Yeah, that's better. And then if I get it there, I can dance it around a little bit in here. And if you notice, it starts off really strong, but I'm gonna knock it down. Am I on the right layer? You know, and I also can come in here. See, I was starting to work a little bit. Yeah. Where'd you go?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So I'm also taking my eraser really low opacity 22 and I'm backing off of it a little bit here and there. So it's a little bit of those two things. So I just try and find like a nice cool and just cool out a little bit of the shadows. That's probably enough. And again, I'm gonna go back to my eraser, which is at 21%. I'm just gonna pull some of this out a little bit. So I'm just kind of kissing it with that cool. And by the way, I'm using a violet, which has a little bit of warmth to it. So it's not, you know, I could probably go a little bluer if I wanted to. And then, yeah, you know, and then I can also probably dance, you know, there's a lot of things I could do. If you get some reference, you could just kind of maybe dance a little more, a couple of warm, even more warms in there. This little canyon break right there starting to look like you could put a river in there, whatever. Okay. I just wanted to go one more step. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's probably, I'm guessing when people are new to this, that it'll be the same comment as I'm going through these, I'll bet you. Where are you at?
I'm here.
Same comment probably. And also, I'd probably give this a little more of a sense of light. So you got, okay, so you sort of got, what's your major?
Architecture.
Oh, I got 2 architects in here? That's cool. Do they give you guys a rendering class or anything?
No.
No, not specifically.
It'd be really interesting to me if they did because a lot of, you know, you're doing computer models and things like that now for these to generate these renders. It'd be really interesting, I think, if they had a class that was just now on rendering, architectural studies and things like that, and how I can throw a little more light on it and how I can, you know, do kind of what we're talking about in relation, because you guys are going to be working with 3D programs and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But how do I then warm those things up, and how do I make them a little more human and inviting? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree completely.
But like here, let's go. I'd probably want to get a little more, because, okay. So like if you're rendering on Canson paper, you're using the color of the Canson paper as the basis, and then you start going lighter and darker. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with this. You sort of put down an overall value, overall color, temperature, and value, but there's already the value in the drawing, right? So you put down like the Canson paper would be, okay? So then I could go a little lighter. Now you've already got your darks in here, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. But then I'm probably going to want to go, let's say the sun's up over, the clouds are starting to work. Let's say the sun's up here. I'm going to go grab this and then maybe put a little more warmth into it. And start going, okay, my light's over here. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Hang on. Let's try this on a color layer, because we're going to be using the color layer in the next thing quite a bit. Let's see if this works. Okay, it's really light, but I kind of like that. And then I'm going to build one more. So I'm going to go, I'm getting really late, warm afternoon light on all these, let's say, north-facing planes, or it'd be what? Sun goes down the west-facing planes. And another little, and what I'm also trying to get you guys to see is look how little work I'm doing, because that drawing is so solid, right? That solid, or that drawing, is your foundation. That's concrete. It's holding everything together, which gives me a lot of room to play. If I was doing this without the drawing, it would be a full-blown painting thing, and gets much more complicated, kind of. Okay, so now I'm going to go, I got that. So see how we've warmed it up a little bit? Yeah?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go onto another layer and see if I can dial in some sort of really warm sunlight. Now I'm going to be a little more strategic and sort of start dialing around my lines so I can obliterate some of the line if I want. But I'm really trying to hit these planes here and there so I know what's going on. Or so, you know, I'm really kind of controlling where that light's really hitting. And I always go and soften them up a little. And I'm thinking about my edges and everything while I'm doing that. I'm not just, it's not random. And I'd start building up a little bit of that kind of idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I might go, I do this all the time. I mean, you guys know I do this all the time. Hang on. That means the top up here might get lit.
I just kind of have a hard time figuring out where to add those lights.
The way I'm looking at it, let's look at it. The way I'm looking at this is my light is out there. Hang on. Oh, I'm on the eraser. My light is out there somewhere. Why is this? I keep going on eraser for some reason. There. Out this way. Somewhere out there. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So it's up off to the upper right. So that means these are planes, if you break them down, that are all facing towards that light, correct?
Yeah.
If you just break these down, you go, these are just like boards facing the sun. these are starting to face away. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
So that means all these forward facing planes and these tops are going to get lit a little harder than the other ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just try and think of break these down in your mind. It's like the light is going to hit those planes facing the light. And then if I want to just do a simple idea about like what we just talked about, where I want to go in and cool off these shadows, then I can go, I'm just going to do it on, I could use whatever overlay, or sometimes I don't even need an overlay. I can just smudge it out. It looks fine. And then I can just go, I'm going to cool these out in these areas. I don't want to do it everywhere and get ridiculous with it. And if you notice, I'm just sort of scattering it around, and then I just come in here and sort of rub it out a little bit. And see how we're starting to build more drama in it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So just think of these things like, man, when I think of this kind of stuff, but the way my mind's working, and after all these years, I don't really think about it directly, but it's how it works, is if I break this whole thing down, all these shapes, I'm really thinking of them like this shape here. I'm just thinking of, there's that top mesa right there. Then it comes out like that. And it goes off like that. And then this comes down like that. Down like that. Like that. And that's really how I'm seeing it. Okay. Because by doing that, then I just go, okay, in a simple breakdown, everything over here for the most part, oops, except for that maybe that top plane might get a little bit of light. Everything over here is away from the light. And that's how I'm seeing it, right?
Yeah.
I just break it down to geometry. And I do it with everything. I mean, not just me, anybody. You break down people that way. You can find studies on, how the nose is broken down geometrically, all that stuff. You know what I mean? And then that's learning how to see. Okay. Because if you want to, what you're doing here, visualizing, and if it's drawing or rendering or any of that stuff, what you're really learning how to do is see. It's not a bunch of dexterity here and all that kind of nonsense. It's actually learning how to see and understanding how these things work. And I think architects really need to understand how that, you guys are all about things working. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not just making a pretty building. It's like, okay, you made a pretty building, dude, but it's totally unfunctional, let's say, right?
Mhm.
That ain't going to work. Oh, you want to be Frank Gehry, but you don't know how to manage the interior spaces of such a strange shape. You don't know how to do that. So just stay out of there. You know what I mean? And just stick to this, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Yeah.
I just saw a new Frank Gehry building today. It looked really cool. It's like a tower.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Ooh, that's kind of cool. Who's this? Where you at?
Hello? Oh, my mic was muted again. Sorry.
Okay, so what were we thinking? I like it.
I was like, I didn't think the orange would be cutting out for me, and I just wanted to do something like a cool tone
Yeah, I'm
to
fine with
change things up a bit.
What's your major?
Just illustration.
Oh, yes. Then I do. I really like that you did that. Okay, so is it an Arctic-y cold environment?
Yeah.
What I might do, man, yesterday when I was coming home, it was later. Otherwise, I would have pulled over and painted. They have these turnouts up here on the 18.
Mm-hmm.
And we got like a weird storm here yesterday. And I pull out on the turnout, man, and there was this crazy dramatic cloud sky. And then below it, and it's probably Big Bear. I don't know what mountain that is. There's a mountain going up sort of with the same kind of tone and, snow on it. Really cool looking, man. I was bummed out. And it's like people always go, you should take a picture of it. It's like, it's not the same as sitting there painting it from life, So let's add a little. I've got to dial this in. Let's see if we can do it. Where's that cool brush? I probably have to dial this in a little bit. Now, one thing that's nice about working in Photoshop is you can just throw down a color and maybe try and dial it in a little bit. What kind of illustration you want to do?
I have no idea.
Start figuring that out.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about it, let me know. Hang on.
Okay.
I mean, I'll talk about illustration all day long.
I just like really drawing like a lot of people and like designing a bunch of characters. I like doing that. But like, I don't know. I don't know yet.
That's all right. This is where you figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little better, right?
Yeah. That's
So now-
snow.
Yeah, I'm gonna start putting snow on it.
That's cool.
Now, what I'd really do here, there were some paintings a while back. Let me see if I can find them. Because there's nothing wrong with swiping a palette. I might not remember this guy's name. Yeah, probably don't. Used to be, let me see if I can find him here because he did these paintings that were really cool. And let's just try this. Like you could look at I know there's a guy. Scott. Like this kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah.
This guy's a monster painter, man. What? Let's go back. Oops. Look, you can get some really good reference here for snow color. See that?
Yeah. There's a lot of blues. I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, you know, you tend to go. I just actually was painting in the snow over the weekend, I think.
Mhm.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I think-
talked about that.
Yeah. And that, you know, I do it because I want to paint, but it's also, man, you learn so much about color when you're doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see like sometimes when people paint snow, they add like pink sometimes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Here's the thing that you got to understand about color
Yeah.
is you're looking for that. Like you're looking, when you're looking at blue, all that blue snow, and maybe all I'm seeing is like when I was out on this scene, I was seeing a lot. It just went to like a slate blue, right? And I'm like, okay, I know I can push that a little warmer and I can probably push it a little cooler here and there. And that will vary it a little bit. And what I'm really looking for, what I get super excited about is when I see like a reflected light in there. Like maybe there's a lot of green or something getting some light over here and it throws some green into the snow or something. You're like, yes, now I got like more complex color, right?
Yeah.
Just like this right here, like you're talking about right there. See how it goes pinky?
Mhm.
And then after you get used to doing that and understanding it, then when you're painting something, you just go, I'm going to throw a little of that in there because it's going to look cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it makes sense because you're not one of those people who goes, oh, I've seen it with pink, and they put a bunch of pink in there and you're like, that doesn't look like that. Anyway, you could go get some snow reference here. Like these, like this is really good. That, see that?
That's really nice.
Yeah, that's perfect. So if we go, oops. And by the way, you need to know how the stuff works, but you know, once I go into Photoshop or, you know, sure, I'm going to try and speed up my process. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do it not based on my own ideas or anything, but this, especially as a student, this can really help you start to, you know, not a big fan of like doing a bunch of master copies, but I think something like this is kind of cool to do. And I might start dancing again, some of that warmth on this front facing plane or some of that lighter value. And then I'm going to rub a lot of it out. Where's that one at? Hang on. No, hang on, I screwed up. Damn it. Let's go on that previous layer. I'm going to go on a new layer. And I'm going to sample this little bit of blue here because it's actually, and what else is interesting is in this context of this shot right here, that looks fairly dark, but look how light it is in the context of how dark yours is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I'm going to dust it on the tops, maybe, you know, up on the higher elevations. I mean, it's your world, however you want to do it. And then I'm going to smudge a lot of it out, but here and there, once I start building this, I'm going to leave some of the roughness in like that. That's a nice little stroke right there. And I'm really thinking about now what I'd like to do is go, can I pull a, the one I have in there earlier was too blue now. Can I pull some of this warmth in there? Now on this side, he's lit it and it's got a little yellow in it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I put that into my blue cast shadow. So it's kind of within this higher highlight, it's still drifting off into a cool, but I'm getting a little bit of that sunlight in there. And I just start dancing this in there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now the trick here is that now I'd have to build it up so it doesn't just feel, again, airbrushy. You know, I got to leave some of those broken edges. Some of them are smoother. And I really start thinking about how I'm describing. If you look at it, you can see it here. That broken edge right there, that broken edge right there, a hard edge right there. You know, this is a pretty sharp edge back here. But then he, you know, and then he knocked in a couple of little strokes right there and softened out the edge a little bit, you know. So you're really thinking about what your edges are doing. That front facing one right there gets warmed up. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
And then to your point, you know, can I go in and go, because it will happen in here. And eventually I'm going to come up with like 2 or 3 colors that will work for, and that's my whole basis. And then I can like, maybe this might be a little much. Yeah, let's try it. Now I'm going to pull this down so it's not going to be screaming. It'll be screaming when I first put it down. But I might try and find, oops, damn it. Someplace where I can get a little bit of that pinky idea. And then that pinky idea will probably lead into an orangey idea.
And everyone's like,
That's a lot of pressure.
What are you guys doing? Somebody's
I
mic's
don't really mind it.
Whose mic's on? I think they muted it. Okay. You know, and I'd have to get these and I'd really have to build them. And I might build up to some really interesting sort of sunny side, getting some warm light and everything goes back into the cools, right?
Oh, I really like that.
But I'd have to build it. It's not built yet. And the other thing I might do, if I did that, then I might come back here behind this. Because now I'm saying this light's here. I'm going to do this real sloppy. Yeah, like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna put a pink background, but I was like, I like the blue more. But I
You
think
can
that
have
looks better.
both,
Yeah,
just like that,
yeah, like that. That looks really good.
you know? And then what do you do? See how you're just starting to build this really, it's how it starts to get exciting color-wise,
Hmm.
you know? And then as an illustrator, you want to control, you want to use that as an emotional tool, right?
Yeah.
There's a guy named Nathan, I think I just talked about Nathan Fowles. He does these little studies just constantly in gouache, and they're just spectacular. And he probably spends a half an hour on them or something, and he does it just constantly hit his color thing, right? But they have such an emotional resonance because how he pushes the color. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because he makes them look more like what they look like in real life, which is hard to explain. Look at, he's a good guy to look at if you want to look at color. Actually, one of the best ones to look at. So he does these kind of things. Like in gouache, right? They're never over about that big. Just does them in a little sketchbook, just like I always paint my sketchbook, same thing. But look how much this guy knows about color. Can you see that? Yeah?
So
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Has like some limited color palette.
Yeah, he
I
does.
really like that.
Yeah, I don't think he has a huge color palette, which is good. Yeah. And then, you know, here's another one. See how he's really pushing the color? Look at that. Or wait, this one. You want to learn about color? Do that. Get in the sketchbook, get a little watercolor sketchbook, do that. And you will know about color. But look how he's pushing the sky. It's kind of like what we were just talking about. Look at this blast of blue down here. Then up into this, and then he pinks up those clouds. I steal that all the time, by the way. So does everybody, actually. Night scene. Look how he lights up the tops with that warm light and then tells you back here what's happening. Sunset. Lights up a few of these lights. I love these. I love this one. See, that gives me a certain feel and mood. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's because of the warm colors. Makes it look really fun and exciting.
Yeah, and it feels like a moment to me. Like maybe it's because I've had a lot of moments, but I go, oh, that feels like, I know exactly what that feels like. I know exactly what it feels like to be there because he's given me that sort of emotional connection to it through the color. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember going, this reminds me when I was a kid in the 70s and we go to the swap meet. It would feel like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Disney.
Yeah, it just reminds you of something. It locks into some memory that you have of that type of day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you heighten it that way, it makes it very specific. So as an illustrator, you want to use those things, okay? So, and what I like here is that you've set the ground for it, and there's a lot of really nice little finessing like this back here, and then you get this harder hit right there. You're not just putting soft edges everywhere. It looks like you're actually thinking about what you're doing. And now let's build that next layer of color on it, yeah?
Yeah.
Make this spectacular, okay? Because then you can just do your own drawings and do the same thing. And I hope you're seeing the value of this, you can do this in paint, of locking together the drawing underneath and then, you know, glazing color over it. That's kind of what we're doing, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, same thing as I said about this one. Where are you at? Cindy.
Hello.
Same thing as I said about this one, where we sort of got one value and tone and color laid down. Now let's start building it out a little bit on the front, on the facing planes that are going towards the light. Yeah.
I tried to like add highlights and some like light to it, but it was looking really airbrushed. So I think I was using the wrong.
Yeah, it takes a Your clouds are starting to work pretty good. Look at this right here. That's nice. Right there, right here. That's working really nice right there. That's all just painted.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
planted.
You're starting to play. Okay, now here's what I want you guys to understand. The reason that's working is you're managing your edges really well and your values, but your edges look really nice. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And the reason I keep harping on this stuff, be careful that these two things are mirroring each other. The reason I harp on that is because I don't want you all coming out of this class like I see a lot of Photoshop classes where all your stuff looks like airbrush, soft edges everywhere. Yeah? Does that make sense? Where'd you go?
Yes.
What was I going to say? Oh, you can just go start to build these up lighter. I actually think it's better to start sort of build it up. You don't want to just go to a blasting light color. So you've started to build it. Now I'd warm up that color a little bit, maybe introduce a little bit of yellow or orangey kind of things, and then hit it. Because it could be really late and you don't get super sunny. You're just getting that really nice, lazy orange layover on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so just do that. I think one more pass, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Irene. Ah, nice. Okay, what do you think? Where are you at?
I'm here.
What do you think?
I think it looks great.
Nothing else can be done, right?
That's right. It's perfect the way it is. Maybe some darker tones a little bit. I don't know, but I tend to go dark a lot.
Well, everybody tends to go something a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My thing used to be, well, first it was timid, so everything was too light. And then it was too dark. Okay, up here, I'd probably manage these a little more, this edge.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not just about softening everything. It's like shaping and what edge is doing what, you know?
Yeah.
And then I don't want everything to look the same. That's another thing. Like here, it's getting pretty soft. I'd probably break up one, but I love the color in that. I'm on this rain kick.
It's okay. That's what I was going for. It just didn't show up as much as I wanted it to.
Just make sure when you're using a smudge, if you look right here, it says strength, right?
Yeah.
So make sure, you know, it is dialed in. Like I usually just have it on 100% because obviously I'm on a tablet and I can control it through pressure, which is how I like to control. I love this little pop right there, that pinky orangey color. That's great. Yeah.
Thank you. I was trying to incorporate the pinks on the left.
Yeah, now I'd probably sample that and go, oops, I'm gonna go on another layer. I gotta get a little more finessey brush, hang on.
What blender were you using?
I use that impressionistic blender a lot.
Okay.
And the reason is it just breaks the edges up a little bit. And then if I make the brush a lot smaller, you can't really see the broken edge. So I get sort of two edges out of it. And then if I want to, like, I might go in here to this other, I basically use 90% of the time. I might go in here, let's say, so I'm using a lot this impressionistic blender. And then I might use like this one. If I go maybe up here, I do this a lot with smoke. Maybe up here, this one will just really dissipate. So see how that one just basically just really wipes it out, like from a soft perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go, okay, got that. But now I go, I don't like all of that way. So I might go back to this one. And see, I just gave it a different little broken edge right there.
Yeah, I like that.
And then you just shape it back out, right? Oops.
Mike, have you seen Zoolander?
Yes.
So you know when you were talking about your your Disney days and you were like, the monitors are too small.
Yeah.
It reminded me of when
The files are in the computer.
no, when he's all like, what is this? A center for ants? How can they learn if they can't fit inside the building?
What was it? What was it about?
It was about how God, I forgot his name. I forgot all their names, but the main bad guy, like he built like a center for the protagonist so that he can have a center for kids who can't read very well.
Oh yeah.
And
The
it's like a
center,
little
it was
model.
called like the Center for Kids Who Can't Read Well or something.
Yeah, for center for who can't read good.
Yeah. You know what I like about that guy? He's totally not afraid to embrace total stupidity.
Yeah, and it's great.
I know. I love that. And I think it's hard to do stupid humor.
I agree. Slapstick isn't really my thing, but he does a very good job with it.
Anyway, so I'm just starting to go in and dance a little of that cloud color in there. And I might even go in here and adjust it and go, well, maybe I'm going to push it. Hang on. I'm going to grab it one more time. Your light is actually coming from over to the, well, you got, okay, so when you flip this, you got to be careful because see how you got a shadow value over here. Well, you got shadow values over here too. Okay, that's fine. So your light's actually coming from the upper left, correct?
Yeah, that was the goal.
Hang on, sorry. So I might take that color, or maybe I'll take this color. Yeah, some of that sky color and sort of unify a little bit of this. What I really want to start off with is sort of a unified idea, and then I'll introduce secondary and tertiary colors into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like that you're going for the big dramatic thing. Did you get your stuff into wherever it was, Nickelodeon or whatever?
DreamWorks, yeah, I did. I'm still waiting to hear back. They haven't given us like a
Oh
date,
shit, they're on their own timeline, man.
right? So we'll see. Hopefully I get it.
Okay, who's this? Isaac, where you at?
I'm here.
We got to shape these clouds. See how they're cotton balls right now? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the first thing I do when I put these down, let's grab that, is I try and make an interesting, not round, just round shape. So maybe let's say this gray that you pulled, which I think is a pretty nice gray, that'll be my underside. And then get a little more dramatic here. That's a nice gray. I went over a little bit, but so what? And see how now they're starting to get a little more interesting?
Yeah.
And then I can go in, grab maybe that, then this, start to build some thunderheads maybe. Everything doesn't have to go to pure white. Okay, and we're getting a little more kind of clouds. Again, here's my washy thing hitting the, maybe it's getting that. And then, you know, I could go I'm going to do an overlay. Again, I'm going to go to color. Maybe I start introducing some of those late afternoon pinks in here. See that? And why did I add those pinks in there, you guys?
Contrasting light and
That's part of it. It's an accent color, but also down below is a pretty warm environment. This feels like with the clouds sort of spread out and one's doing a cloud burst, could be a summer storm. So I could, instead of having a very stormy overcast sky, still have blue, still have some warmth popping up into the clouds from the ground. So, you know, and those pinks just look really nice. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it introduces, I want to introduce color. Like you don't want to overdo it, but you do want to push it, right? Okay, Isaac, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thought I was going to be fast today, but I will. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Where you at?
Hi.
This down here, this little subtle stuff back in there is really cool.
Thank you. I keep running into the same problems with my
Glitches.
computer.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and so it's just been, I have to take it in. I tried, and then towards the end, I merged it onto my iPad. But I wasn't able to blend stuff in, so.
This, I love this cloud foggy stuff rolling over and breaking the edge. And then down here, I really love that. And I love that little pop of color, light back there, just really
Lightness.
subtle. And then all this gets lost in the fog. That stuff's great.
Thank you.
What's your major?
Graphic design.
Oh, interesting. I'd probably just introduce one more little pop over here.
Okay.
Something, I don't know what. Just maybe like we
Okay.
just talked about with the pink in the clouds or something, some accent
Yeah.
color. And, you know, make sure it makes sense in this environment. But man, all this subtle stuff in here. Do you like illustration?
This is the first time of me trying, and I kind of like it. Yeah.
Well, when you have success with it, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the struggle. Wow, who's this?
Hello.
Me likey.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, nice. Those clouds, that's great, man. And I like the
I
way you
did-
put the stuff together, the drawing.
Thank you. I did have one question because I was having a little bit of trouble with that back mountain where I felt like the fog was more making that mountain look muddy.
I think if you commit to it a little bit, because I think all it really probably has to soften just a hair more.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, good. Where is that? I'm just gonna flatten it here. I would never do that normally.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Yeah, that's fine. I think if we come in here and, damn it. And commit a little more to the idea. Because what I got to do is roll this stuff over the planes a little bit. See, I'm starting to break it up so it feels like more like it's going up into that fog.
Yes.
So I want to
think-
manage that. Go ahead.
I think I was afraid that it was just going to turn to mud if I mixed it anymore.
And, you know, and then the other thing I might do, again, now I might go back to this other idea and really obliterate a little of it. Oops. Like that way I'm getting sort of a soft, but I'm controlling it going up into that idea. And I'd have to spread it around a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I blow it and then I'll just come in. You know, I always save like an extra layer or whatever, and I start to just build it back there. Might even
Okay.
soften. I might soften more of this up here. So it's all sort of going. And then I might even take some of this, or maybe even this. I don't know if this will work at all. Because sometimes in this kind of environment, you'll get this stuff coming up out of the canyons a little bit too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that way I'm spreading the idea around a little bit, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this kind of thing a lot. There. See how it's starting to tie together a little more here?
Yes.
And then I would, I wouldn't do a whole bunch of it out here. I'd just let it sort of dissipate probably. You know, and I'd have to control it more. I'd have to work more on this a little bit. But I love this burnt sienna, burnt orange right there.
Yeah.
You dialed that in nice.
Thank you.
Because it still has that, like, it still has a lot of color in it, but it has a lot of light in it. When you add white to color, it tends to gray the color, right?
Yes.
And this, when you set it up where that has that nice warm chocolatey feel, but it's also light, right?
Yes.
So that feels like it's describing light to me, which is what you're after. Yeah, and then you get all these nice little pops back here and starts to cool out. Right on. So you can see how easy it can be if you have a strong drawing to start with, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes a huge difference compared to traditional painting where you're like, oh, I'm doing everything.
Yeah, but you know what? I do the same technique traditionally too.
So does that include like a black outline?
I'll show you one real quick here. I do like drawings in my sketch. I do a lot of paintings in my sketchbook.
Mm-hmm.
But I start off with just like this, a full value drawing, right? This one's a portrait thing, but let me see if I can find it even. Started, let's see. And it's probably this one. So it started with that drawing. Hang on. Gosh darn it. With that drawing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which has full value. And then if you go here, and then I wash a mid-tone over it. See how it automatically starts picking up all the values?
Yeah, is that acrylic
That's
or
acrylic.
watercolor?
That's acrylic.
Okay.
And then
And then
go ahead.
is it just like a really thin wash?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to do in the next round of this. Okay.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then we'll do a digital version. Okay. So you can see already you've got a full value sort of painting started. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's an old technique. It's a really old technique, but we use it now digitally too, right? And then I go over this. And again, these are all kind of what we're going to do. And I put a layer, in this case, I put a watercolor wash of, what do you call it? Just gray purple. Okay. Then I let that dry and then I go into it and start picking out the highlights. If I have it here. So you start picking out the highlights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll jump ahead. I have no idea what each clip is. Okay, then start adding some lighting back here, start warming up the flesh tones. You see that?
Yes. So do you put any sort of how would I say, like any sort of mask or anything on it so it doesn't like completely obstruct the drawing, or are you just like trying to re-add it as you go?
Well, I that drawing is pretty strong under there, and I don't really lose the drawing for quite a while. And by the time I lose the drawing, all the shape, the landmarks have all been replaced with paint. So I know where I am.
Okay. Okay. That's what I was wondering.
And I'm constantly adjusting as I'm painting. I'm going, oh, that eyebrow should go a little higher right there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And eventually it gets up into opaque paint. And you have that. So that's
Okay.
now mostly opaque. There's some passages of transparency. you
Okay,
know?
cool.
And then I was working from just kind of a snapshotty reference photo. So I go, well, this guy's a well-known musician. His name's Red. So I go, I want to put a little red pop back here. And I can also justify that and kind of saying it's sort of stage lighting. And then I warmed up all this reflected light on his face is all just made up. Right.
Right.
But I know how to do that because I've sat around and drawn in jazz clubs. Right.
Right.
So, you got to gather the knowledge to be able to, what happens is everybody looks at that kind of, or whatever they're looking at. Then they go, I want to try and do that on my portrait. And they just grab pure orange and go on the side of it. And it's like, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
also when I throw that orange on there, what else can I do? Well, if it's stage lighting, I could if I wanted to, I could have electrified one side with a really cool or really hot violet. I wanted to keep flesh tones on one side really natural and then sort of warm up the other sides, what I wanted to do. And then that purple wash I put over it, when I lift out the parts I don't want, it reveals the warm underneath and cools all the other flesh tones off. So it's just a starting point. Everything is a starting point that gets me to a what looks like a painting almost immediately, right?
Yeah.
What kind of paper do you use?
That's a Moleskine sketchbook.
Okay.
I do those in my sketchbook a lot. I'm doing another one right now. I'm always
Really
usually
nice.
doing one. I love to play in a sketchbook, and that's how I learned a lot of those mixing techniques and all that kind of stuff because I experiment in there, and I've been doing it for a long time, right? Yeah.
So, do you have to stretch the paper at all?
Now, the whole
Okay.
point of those sketchbook paintings is to have fun, to sort of push myself to go do some really finished stuff. You're always doing fast sketches, do some really finished stuff. And then it's an idea generator. I also work out bigger oil paintings and stuff in sketchbooks. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or whatever. But what those are for is I'm obsessed with spontaneity. I learned how to play music when I was a kid, and I used to like going around playing with people. I probably talked about that in here. And I like that you could just sit down and go, hey, it's an A, and boom, you're off making a thing in the moment, right? So that idea of spontaneity and improvisation just got stuck in my brain. So the sketchbook things are just throwing it down, not overthinking it, no preliminary drawings or anything. I just go straight on the page and start working the drawing. And then once I get the drawing all finessed, then I can start painting it. Because I got that rock solid thing underneath, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just a process of going, like once I painted him out, and then I go, I need some more dramatic lighting here. So now I got to make an excuse to have the dramatic lighting. So then I put the little pop of warmth behind him, and boom, I can warm up one side of his face, just like we're doing with this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But again, the reason I like to talk about that is the techniques you're using, like we're talking about right now, or the next one we're going to do, they come out of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to remember, if I can do that, do you know how easy it is for me to do it digitally?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, it's like, if you go from traditional paint to digital, you're like, this is the easiest thing in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're bringing all that knowledge of that, like, how do I get that color? Why does that color work? I know that color works because I've sat in jazz clubs and drawn and painted jazz musicians from life. And then I've gone and made oil paintings of them. And then I've done this. And I go out and I paint in the landscape. And I stand in knee-deep snow. And all that stuff, man, it is all to gather experiences and color and lighting and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm talking about that is you got a whole generation of people now who live their whole life behind a computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually had two kids say this to me at dinner. They were the kids of some people we went to dinner with. Their kids are weird. And we were talking about, we had gone someplace, and one of the kids goes, well, now you don't need to do that anymore because you can experience the world through your computer. And I was like, man, your kids are screwed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I go, man, no, you can't experience the world through your computer. The computer's a great thing, but it does not do that. Who's this?
That's mine.
What do you think?
It was fun playing around with all the colors.
Yeah, I like it. What I think I do in the greens, and you started to do it here. I think I'd mix them up a little. Like maybe, let's see if we can even do it. Like, let's see what this looks like. Like even there, I'm taking a little of that. I want to scatter it around a little. I might even like here in the foreground on the tops, maybe. I might even go to a hotter green a little bit. Let's get more green in it. That might be too much. Let's see. And just pop like some of this is catching the light and it's getting sort of that acidic green. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oops. I don't want that. See, now I don't want that really soft smudger. I want the broken smudger again. Because it'll pull these forward and away from the background. I also might see if I could just go lightly back here. Maybe just a touch more of that. And get some of the warmth in between a little bit of the green, just because some of it's going to dissipate here and there, and you're going to see some of the rock through it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm liking warming this up a little bit as it comes into the foreground, maybe. And again, one of the things that's nice about playing around with this digitally, even if you're whatever you are, art, graphic designer, whatever, or illustrator especially. Now say I'm just warming the front planes up a little.
Yeah.
This back here is kind of nice. I don't want to do it everywhere. I just want to see if I can kind of dance a little bit of warmth in there, here and there, and it'll sort of pull this foreground. I'm not going to do it in the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I might take some of this. Yeah, it needs to be on a different layer. Hang on. And this may or may not work. Okay, so sometimes I'll just throw something down like this blue. And the thinking is, well, that's the blue I'm looking through, right?
Yeah.
I might cool out those mountains back there a little bit. And then again, I can go, does anything sit over it better? And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. That's kind of nice. That little hazy blue. That's not too bad. Then I oversprayed it when I smudged it, so I'm going to get my eraser here. Maybe get rid of some of that. Maybe even see if I can do anything with this to play around with it. I like it a little more purpley. What do you think?
Yeah, that looks nice.
So it just pushes them back a little. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I'll see if I can do this. Again, it's going to be sloppy, but I blame Irene for that.
You know what? Don't blame me for your mistakes.
Hey, there are no mistakes if I have someone to blame.
They're happy mistakes.
Actually, that's what I operate on, 100%. I
Yeah.
operate 100% on falling down the stairs and landing on my feet. Yeah?
I don't know, Mike. You might break your hip or something.
Yeah. I've already done that. I've already well entered the aches and pains stage of my life. Hang on. Now I'm going to see if I can make this work first. And I don't like any of those yet. That's starting to work, but it's way too strong. I want to lower down the opaque. Okay, so that's nice. It's just kissing the highlights with a little bit of that warmth. And that's on hard light. And I reduced the value. Look at that. See what I mean?
Yeah, that's nice.
Now you're getting some. See how I'm just introducing a smart series of colors in there? So you have a basic color, and then you can come up maybe an accent, warmer, cooler, whatever. And in this case, I just threw a bunch of warmth over it. And then when I did that hard light on it, it just sort of assigned it to the higher highlights in there mostly. And then when people see that, it looks like you went in there and painted all those brush strokes that different color and everything. And it's like, no, it's just, it's this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that all make sense?
Thank you.
That's nice. It's a nice job. I'm not getting too into the weeds here, right?
No, I like all the things you're talking about.
Okay, good. This is all the stuff I wanted to learn when I was in school. Okay.
Yeah, everything elevates it.
Yeah. And you got to like, this is the reason I like this class, and I didn't write it, Frank wrote it, is that it's called Photoshop for Digital Artists. So I can get much more into the weeds on this stuff. I can't do it in Dart 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if I was just doing a basic Photoshop class, I can't go into the weeds on what, you know, why this is working. But I can also just go, hey, do a canyon scene, man. And then you look at it and you go, well, how come it doesn't look like that? You know what I mean? You have to know. And then the stuff that I wanted to know is what we're talking about right now. And I remember this specifically at Fullerton, where I was looking at things like this, where I'm going, where is all that color coming from? Like, that's an ochre wall. How come there's purple in it? But it looks so cool. But how do you know how to do that? Do you know what I mean? And that drove me crazy until I could finally learn that, you know. Then I found a guy named Gary Meyer. He was the font of all knowledge. And I could go to Gary and go, why is that purple there? And he'd go, here's why, you know, and he'd tell me. Okay, who's this?
That would be me.
Is this these light areas? Is that like a cloud?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a fog covering.
I would shape that out a little more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was doing that late at night. Now I see why it needs a little bit more shaping.
Yeah, like, you know, is it sort of moving this way a little bit? You know, you want to keep sort of, you don't want to feel like bop, 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 bop.
Yeah, I went in with an eraser to knock it down a few layers, because when I initially put it in there, it just kind of blanketed everything.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of times you can see what I'm doing. I'm throwing down a big idea and then I sort of shape it and you know, and change it and go, maybe that's not the right color, and move the color around. I mean, you have all those options digitally, which is amazing. You know what I mean? You know.
But yeah, I can definitely do that because they're still on their own layer.
And then I think I'd give the mountains maybe an overlay of something. I'm trying to find, hang on. Frank. Oh, wow. This isn't what I was looking for, but. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
That's pretty cool.
That's badass right there. I don't know who that is. It's not Frank Serrano. It's being, or maybe there's a different Frank Serrano. Yeah, there must be. Okay, hang on. Let's do this. Because you could just swipe this off a painter. Here we go. So you can kind of get an idea. I know he's done a lot of these. Oops. It's sort of this night cool and how it'll affect the mountains and things like that. Yeah. Look at this. Or yeah, here's a good one. See that mountain? I might just put a layer over it and just sort of put a little of that on there and find an overlay that fits on it, and then maybe have to pull it back a little bit because you got that warm underneath it. I think if you put this kind of little bluish thing, at least on part of it. Maybe it's a top and then it goes warmer or vice versa or something. And that should knock it into nighttime. Yeah.
Mhm.
Look at that. Look at, see how it goes orange, and then there's that purple I was talking about, how it goes into that purpley idea. You can always
That's really
wipe
pretty.
that too, huh?
That's really pretty.
That's Bill Anton. The guy's a mind blower. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, where are you at?
That's me.
It's probably not going to go sideways like that. Do I have the layers? There's the waterfall. So let's go here. I'm going to do, let me see if I can do this. Let's straighten it out a little bit. More like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I might be able to get away with a little bit of that light hitting the top of my waterfall. That's totally reflective up there, right?
Mhm.
Oops, on the wrong layer. Hang on. I like that little mark right there. I'm going to sort of set up, I don't want it all that color. Push this up a little. Because I'm going to heighten it a little bit, obviously, right?
That looks nice.
Oops. And then maybe, I don't want to touch that mark right there. I really like that mark. See how it's getting a little more watery?
Yeah.
So then maybe, I'll try this. This might be too much. Actually, I'm going to do this because I want to play with this a little bit. And I like this underpainting quite a bit. So I'll go over. That way I can really play here a little bit. Really
What
push
hotkey
this.
did you just use right now to delete all your
That,
steps?
say it again.
What hotkey did you use to delete all your steps right now?
Just now, I just Command Z out of it, I think.
Command Z.
So, okay, so this, and it's lower light, so it's probably not going to get, and then another thing I'm going to do now, because this is a pretty big waterfall, right?
Mhm.
So now I'm going to grab some of this.
Create that. I was trying to create splashes, but I
No, I
was
don't want to do splash. I want to do just
like,
mist. So I'm going to mist it out.
yeah. I was having hard
So from
trouble.
this distance, I'm not going to see much splash. You know, more how it just gets this misty stuff down on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then maybe a little bit of, because there is going to be water hitting the bottom down here. And again, now I'm going to switch again. I don't want to overdo this. Still too readable. That's a little bit. I have to finesse this more. I don't like that yet. That's a little better. See, it's got a little more motion now.
Yeah, I like that.
And then I'd probably straighten it out still a little more. And then I'd go maybe right on these. Just pop some of these nice little things in here. Now, why am I putting them there?
Because the orange is hot right there.
It can be, but what I'm doing it for is I want to put all your emphasis in your eye towards right where my waterfall is.
All right.
So I'm starting to put the center of interest there. See how that's starting to light up now and start to feel kind of nice?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go, maybe it's this. I'm just going to take a big brush. This might work, might not. If it doesn't work, it's Irene's fault, not my fault.
It looks great. It's working. It's my fault. It's working.
Oh, if it works, it's my fault.
No.
Okay, so let's go. Yeah, and I'm gonna see if I can knock that down a little bit. Ooh, look at that. Yeah,
See, I told you it'd work.
that looks cool, I think. Yeah, that is really subtle right there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Looks cool.
Now I'm gonna add a little of that to here.
Yeah, looks
And
cool.
I'm really thinking about my planes and all that. I don't want to hit anything other than that. Maybe I can get a little into my waterfall here because it's an overlay. That's too much. You know, and I just finish it off. Yeah. Ooh, I like that little silver lining right there on that cloud.
Yeah, I had fun with the clouds.
Good. Most people hate doing, they're afraid of them.
Yeah, I struggled last time, so I was like, let me focus on the clouds this time. I had one question. I
Sure.
kind of forgot how to stretch something. The hotkey to like stretch it.
Command T
Command T.
for transform,
Okay. Thank you.
which is probably up under here. Half the time I forget where they are now.
It's not exactly what I wanted though. The I went to no, it's in image.
Is
Yeah.
it an image? I don't even see it.
In an image.
Oh, it's probably in here. Yeah. There it is. Free transform. It's in edit.
Okay. Command.
So if I take an image of something, let's see if this is what you're talking about. And I go, I have this thing. And I go free transform.
Yeah, that's what I.
Now remember, they've changed this. So you used to have to hold down shift to constrain it to keep it the same proportions. So
Mhm.
now if you want to not do that, so these will just stay constrained. If I hold shift now, it's the opposite. It won't constrain. I can reshape it. Then if I want to do what we just did with the waterfall, I can go to transport and warp. And I can reshape it, different
Yeah,
ways.
I used the warp one a little.
Now it's
Okay,
dancing.
cool. I just need a refresher on that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And by the way, I don't know if I've said this. You did a really good job on this, by the way.
Thank you.
After this class over, I probably said this, but I'm not expecting you're going to remember every single thing I did. So if you're in somebody else's class, don't bug them with it. Just come back to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now I could probably cheat a few particles down there from this distance. I'm probably not going to see a whole lot of it, especially at this time of day. Okay. Where you at?
Hey.
What's going on with these leftovers right here?
Yeah, I had trouble with that. I couldn't remove that for some reason when I started stretching the image.
Oh, you just have to go in and erase it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It looks like it was erased and that's just some leftover stuff. You might just been on the wrong layer.
Okay.
Now, what do these lighter areas represent? Oops.
I don't know. I was just trying to play it by ear and like, I obviously need some work on it.
Okay, I think number one, if these colors had sort of gone this way, it would
Yeah.
start to look like that strata formations you get on these things. So that could kind of make sense.
Yeah.
But going vertically, they don't make as much sense to me, right?
Right.
And if they're representing shifts in value or light, they're not doing that. They may feel more like that's a different material, maybe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, you know, you could do, but I want it to be intentional.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would go back to this base color. Just let me see. I don't have the layers. I'd go back to this base color for everything. And then it's the real start here is that you start with either a mid, well, you already have your values. Okay. So I'm going to put an overall color, let's say this brown, and then I'm going to light it up because I already have all the values. I don't really have to worry about that. So I'm just going to take a lighter value of this and find something that works and start to light up the side that's facing the sun or whatever.
Yeah. I guess I overdid it, like with the.
Yeah, you're just jumping too fast to
Yeah.
too light a value. Okay. Which
Yeah.
is super common. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your major?
I'm trying to do digital arts.
Okay. Don't think of it as digital art, right?
Yeah.
Think of it as art. You know, I don't care what you guys want to do. You want to be an entertainment designer, you want to be a graphic designer, you want to be a illustrator, you want to be a painter, you want, whatever. You're an artist first, in my opinion. Like be an
Yeah.
artist first, then you're a designer, then whatever, illustrator. That all comes under the umbrella. Because if you don't have the artistic part, in my opinion, and I don't care if it's concept design either. If you don't have the artistic part, you're sort of dead in the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're thinking, you know, and that's where I think a lot of people who are really good at doing all these things with color and all this stuff, the reason is they love doing it. So they're out in the environment learning all about it, and because they love doing it. And then the byproduct is they go back to ILM and they go, hey, we need you to work on a Star Wars, and you're working on all the atmospherics for the planets and all that stuff and making them look believable and emotional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people don't realize that. They look at those people and they think they're just like technicians, and they're not. You know what I mean? Like the guy who worked on the prequel series, he worked on it with Ryan Church, who's a guy I know. And I don't know Eric Timons, but one thing I'd seen about Eric Timons is a guy loves to paint the landscape, and he's really into the Hudson River Valley landscape painters and all that stuff. So he's out painting all the time from life. And I noticed from the first one they came out with, and I told somebody this, I go, Eric Timons is now on this in a bigger role. Bet you the whole thing, the look changes. And that second one was super atmospheric looking. That was him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those dusty, orangey, deserty planets and all that stuff, and how it went into all those purples and all that. That was him, because he paints in the environment, you know. And then that stuff's just right at his fingertips. You know, he's like, oh, if I got that, then I want to do this, and he can push it even further because it's cinematic lighting now. You know what I mean?
It's just training that eye, huh? Yeah.
But it's like a combination of like taking color theory, basic design, those things, and then but the trick is then moving those things into the real world. Okay, where I think that's where I have identified in any program where the program usually falters is making sure that we're connecting all of this to the real world and real work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I can teach you a million Photoshop tricks, but they're not really going to do you much good, because you're just going to do that trick over and over again. You're not going to know what it means or how to apply it. But if you go, I'm doing an underwater scene later on, you go, oh, all this stuff applies to that, you know?
Yeah.
How does that color shift? Okay, I'm going to start off where the background goes from that tealy green where the sun's hitting it, and then it sorts comes down, it gets dirtier, you know, in the sense that there's more particles and things down here. You know, if I'm 400 feet away from the surface, that coral isn't going to quite be as colorful because it's not getting as much sunlight, or might, you know, think of it moving it up. And now I can just glint the edge, you know, build it all just like we're doing this, like we're doing where we highlight the high, like we just did with the last one, and get all that beautiful sunlight on there. Then I can just pop super pure color on the edges and around the coral reef because it's got a ton of color in it. And if the sun hits it through all that water, it's going to blast all this color at you, you know, but not everywhere, just like it's certain little parts, and it's just going to sparkle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get to is that you're understanding how this hopefully relates. We're not painting a canyon to learn how to paint a canyon. We're painting a canyon to start, you know, lighting something, understanding, using a full value drawing, managing edges, you know, and then when you go to do something else, you go, oh, that's just like doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so just push it, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, I went through everybody's. I'm gonna let it go one more week, and then we'll get into the other thing, yeah?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going back. I'm gonna go back and hibernate. I'll put a folder up. I'll do all the normal stuff. You guys want me to put this stuff up?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll put it up. I'll probably get it up tomorrow, I think. Maybe today.
Okay.
A really good job, you guys. Yeah?
Thank you.
What I'm asking you guys to do is I don't think is easy. Okay? I don't think it's easy at all, especially a lot of you have never had experience doing this, and I'm asking a lot of you. Okay?
Yeah. So
Right.
it's due next Monday, not
Yeah,
the one,
we'll turn it in Monday. Yeah?
not the one coming the next Monday, right?
No.
The next time we see each other.
Next time we talk, we're going to talk over this other technique in color, the one I just showed you with the pirate ship and all that stuff in it. Don't even worry about that yet. Yeah?
Okay, so no, we're not submitting anything for spring break.
Oh shit, I forgot about spring
Yeah,
break.
that's what I was confused.
No, okay, this thing will just be due on the following Monday. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I just want you guys to push a little more, and then we can dive into the other thing. Because I got two things coming up. That one I think is an interesting one, the next one, and then there's a really interesting one after that with a whole new set of things. Okay?
Okay, so this
Okay.
Monday coming.
Yeah, and when the Monday we come back.
Okay. Okay, Monday
I mean,
coming.
why, you know, why not?
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'll see you that Monday. Go have a good break. Yeah?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.